Hey, how's it going guys? This is Dave 2D and this is my review of the OnePlus 2. So when the first OnePlus phone came out, the OnePlus 1, I remember reading or seeing something on the internet about how they were losing money on each phone that they were selling, or at the very best they were like breaking even, and they didn't care. They didn't care about the profits, they just wanted to be seen, they wanted to be heard, and they basically wanted to disrupt the market, and they did. So a year and a half later, they launched the OnePlus 2. Now, this is very important for them. It's like their sophomore phone. It's actually my most anticipated phone for 2015. So I've used it every day for about a week and a half. Here are my thoughts. The box is a soft touch finish and noticeably smaller than the first generation. You shake it open and inside you see a wrapped phone, some pamphlets, a wall plug, and a USB-C cable. This is an upgraded model that comes in at $380 and the base model comes in at $330. The presentation of the phone is great. I think a lot of inexpensive phones just kind of skimp out on the whole presentation thing, and truthfully it's not that important, but OnePlus always does a good job with it. The phone feels very functional and industrial to me. It doesn't really follow the whole trend for beauty and elegance. I mean, I love those phones, they have their place, but the OnePlus 2 is kind of boxy and practical, but it works. The front of the device is covered in Gorilla Glass 4 as well as a factory installed screen protector. There's a fingerprint sensor that also serves as a capacitive button right in the middle here, as well as two capacitive buttons on the left and right. There's also a 5 megapixel front-facing camera up top here. The fingerprint sensor works and looks just like the one on the Samsung S6, so it's more of a sensor that acts as a button instead of a traditional button that you can click. On the back we have that iconic sandstone back cover and a 13 megapixel camera with laser focus. The sandstone finish is rougher this year, and sometimes it feels less premium. Like, I'm not sure if it's the finish itself or it's because of how thin the plastic cover is, but I definitely prefer the sandstone finish from last year. Let's take a look around the device. So on the bottom we have the speaker, a USB-C port, and a mic. On the right side we have a power button and a volume rocker, and on the top we have a mic and a headphone jack. And on the left side we have the alert slider. So this is a 3-position slider to physically control whether or not you'll be notified with sounds. It's not super amazing or anything, but it is useful. The location of the power button is a little off to me, so I've been using Motorola phones a lot, and those phones have the position of the volume and the power switch flipped, with the power button above the volume rocker. I've been using it for a week and a half and I'm still not used to it. I'm accidentally turning off the phone when I'm just trying to lower the volume, so if you're a Motorola user, you might have this issue as well. The single speaker doesn't sound great, but it gets reasonably loud, and it's pointed downwards like iPhones, so you have to do that cup thing to hear it better. The USB-C port is I mean, there's a lot I don't like about it, but I still think it was the right choice to put it in. They probably increased their cost price to put it in, and it's even bigger than a micro USB, but the reversible thing is nice, and really, it is the future. We're eventually gonna have to switch, so we might as well start now. The cable itself looks really cool when it's coiled in the box, but I actually broke mine on the third day. It just stopped charging. I think it might have been bent in the box for too long or something. I'm sure it just got unlucky, but since it's not micro USB, I actually had to go out and buy a couple of USB-C cables. That sucked. The back cover comes off pretty easily, and it's surprisingly thin and really flexible. Underneath, you have access to the double SIM card slot. I really like that you don't need any SIM tools to switch SIMs. And because I like to break shit, I opened this up further. On the inside, the first thing I noticed is that you can totally remove and replace that battery. And it's cool that they even put the effort in to cover it up in like a red OnePlus wrapping. That's kind of neat. Another thing, you see these two contacts here? So even when you have that middle plate in, you can still see them on the outside. So maybe you can like connect these to like one of those sticker things for wireless charging to stick on the back. I don't know. The OnePlus 2 has the same screen size of 5.5 inches to the LG G4 and the Zenfone 2. It's a little bit taller and heavier than the G4, but it's still comfortable to hold. Now in terms of its width, it's slightly narrower than the G4, so it makes one-handed use just a little bit easier, but it's still not one-hand usable for a lot of people. The screen is an IPS display of 1920 by 1080. It's not as good as the Quad HD display of the way more expensive LG G4, like the colors aren't as vibrant and it's not as bright and crispy, but it's still good. But with nice screens from other budget phones like the Alcatel Idol 3 or the Asus Zenfone 2, it doesn't really stick out from the bunch. Like, I would say it's in the middle of the pack, but at the very least, it's on par with other mid-tier 5.5 inch screens. I'm kind of disappointed by the camera on the phone. It's not a bad camera, far from it, but the amount of hype that OnePlus was generating for this thing was really overwhelming, and I feel like the camera really under-delivered given the hype. There's supposed to be a software update to improve things, but as of right now, here's where we stand. Daylight photography is good, but low light photos are kind of weak and they're very slow to take. And this is the story we've heard for so many mid-tier cameras. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna totally grill this thing because I know OnePlus is working on it, but I'll probably be back with a more thorough camera review in the future. There's no quick charge or wireless charging, at least not officially, but I am pleased with the battery life. It's a 3300 milliamp battery, and I've run it down several times and I was able to hit 4 to 4.5 hours of screen time on basically every attempt. It comfortably lasts a full day of normal use, and it takes about 3 hours for a full charge. Performance is excellent. I'm not going to waste your time showing benchmarks, but just know that the Snapdragon 810 is very fast, and it's on par with any of the fastest mobile phones on the market. Games run really smooth, the UI is snappy, and I could also never get it to overheat. It gets warm and it throttles down, but there's no overheat messages or any noticeable issues from heat, so that's good. Lastly is the OS. It's running Android 5.1.1 with the Oxygen 2.0 skin. It's a very light skin over stock Android, and I really like it. Basically, everything that's in Oxygen OS feels like a natural extension of stock Android. Things like the customizable pull-down Android toggles, the customizable shelf, like all the icons and menus just look stock, and that's a wonderful thing. It also has like the double tap to wake, finger gestures for flashlights and cameras, so tons of little features, and there's nothing that I really dislike about it. Okay, so the recap for the OnePlus 2. 5.5-inch IPS display, full HD, it's a good screen, but it's not super special. 5-megapixel front-facing camera that looks the same as every other 5-megapixel front-facing camera. A fingerprint sensor that works most of the time. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's as reliable as they're gonna get right now. And 2 capacitive buttons that light up. On the back, we have that signature sandstone cover, a 13-megapixel camera that's pretty mediocre right now, but they're working on it, so it'll likely get better. A physical notification switch on the side, which works well, and a single speaker that doesn't sound amazing, but it gets pretty loud. On the inside, we have a 3300 milliamp battery that will get you through a day, a super fast 2nd gen Snapdragon 810 with 4 or 2 gigs of RAM, and we have either 64 or 16 gigs of RAM depending on your model. There's no SD expansion, there's no wireless charging, no quick charging, and no NFC. Okay, closing thoughts. The technical components in the phone are good. The processor is a beast, it's priced well, and Oxygen OS is actually really nice to use. But here's the thing, in 2015, there's a lot of really good options for inexpensive smartphones, and the OnePlus 2 doesn't really stick out from the crowd. The camera is mediocre right now. I know they're working on a patch, but this is something that they should have fixed prior to launch. And it's missing things like NFC, wireless charging, fast charging, and expandable storage. These are things that are really important to a lot of people. And instead, we got stuff like USB-C and a fingerprint sensor. So things that are really cool, but they're just less popular. Now, here's the thing. The phone is good. It's a good phone, but don't believe the hype. It's not a flagship killer. Which brings me to a couple thoughts I have about OnePlus as a company. First is their marketing. I don't like how they have that invite system still. I understand why they had it in the beginning. It's like a safe way for them to sell these phones without overproducing when you're first starting out. At this point, it's just generating artificial interest for the phone when you don't even need it there. Second thing is their 2016 flagship killer motto. I mean, it's not a flagship killer. I'm pretty sure we know it. OnePlus probably knows it. I don't understand why they have to do it. You're creating a misleading motto for your great phone. Don't do that. The last thing is customer service. Now, I'm a big believer in customer service. I think that OnePlus has poor customer service, to say the least. Now, it's kind of expected. They don't have the resources like Apple and Samsung to just kind of repair and replace phones as quickly as big companies do. But I mean, okay, when my USB-C cable broke, I didn't even think for half a second to contact them for a replacement. I just went out and bought a new one. That's not cool. I don't think that that's good for a company to kind of build up on bad customer service as like a standard in your company. That's the end of this review. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys did, give me some thumbs. If you loved it, give me some subs. It's been nice, and I'll see you guys next time.